Howdy, y'all. It's Angela, and today I want to talk once again about Nancy Pelosi. And our president, as many of you, I'm sure know, just commuted Roger Stone's sentence after his horrific treatment by our government and an extremely inappropriate judge down in New York City. And as predicted, Nancy Pelosi and the rest on the left, are out there screaming and yelling and complaining and whatever. And Madam Speaker's first response is to come out and say that she's going to pass a bill to limit the president's powers of pardon. And as we all know, we're not stupid people. It's just like basic understanding and accepted that the president has the power to pardon whoever the hell he wants. He's the president. And usually presidents save the big ones, the personal ones, for when they're leaving office. But obviously with coronavirus and again with the way Roger Stone was treated, we're not going to let him sit in jail when we've got rapists and murderers running around the street killing people, right? That's just absurd. I mean, for the reality we live in. Side note, I do maintain that sometime in early February, as a world, as a reality, we all woke up in a virtual reality, in an alternate universe. We did. I don't know what day it was, but it happened. If somebody's got a day for that, let me know. Okay, so back to Nancy Pelosi. We all look at it and go, what are you, crazy lady? You can't do this. Is she stupid? She didn't read the Constitution. No, of course she knows better. But that's not the reality of her base. And going back to who Nancy Pelosi caters to, she caters to the emotionally moronic, let's be honest, and the ignorant. These people don't know history. Their schools don't teach that out west. The people that she's talking to, they don't teach that. They don't teach the Constitution. They teach oppression. They teach that you, me, and anybody who happens to have, white skin is bad. Somehow we were the privileged society. It's kind of a bizarre set of circumstances that goes on in their brain, right? And what they teach their kids. It's just reality. It's not reality. It's not history. They say history is written by the winner, and it was, but they're out there and they're winning with our kids, and nobody's doing anything about it. And when I say our kids, I mean American kids. Anyway. So the kids out there or the people rather that she's speaking to, they don't care about the Constitution. They don't know about the Constitution. They don't read the Constitution. They probably didn't understand it if they did. It was probably a spoon-fed to them in very small, abstract, broad strokes in their school system, and it was probably fed to them as a doctrine of negative, which it is, but they don't like that, as a doctrine of negatives on the government. They want the government to have more control of us. So they believe that the Constitution is a bad thing. They also believe it's a breathable document, or a living, breathing document. That is not true. If it was a living, breathing document, we wouldn't have to have, for example, with the Prohibition Amendment, we would not have had to go back and create a new amendment to make it go away. We would just have to make it go away. We have to have laws to nullify previous laws. So it's not how it works. We do not have a living, breathing document. We have a document that is set in stone that we may argue about its application, and there may be different applications, and that's why we have a court system to determine if the applications were within the confines of the law. It's really not that hard. It's not a breathable document, because if that's the case, nothing is set in stone. None of us have any rights because they're all malleable based on somebody's opinion. That's not how it works. Anyway, so when she says she's going to do that, she's floating a balloon, not for us. She doesn't care what we think. She knows the reality. She floats a balloon because that's what her base wants to hear. Remember, these people have been fighting on Nancy Pelosi's side, and they may have had valid arguments. They may. I mean, honestly, gay people, oppressed people, people with AIDS, who were Nancy Pelosi's bread and butter to, her rise to power in California. These were people who did need societal considerations. They did need their plights brought out. Whether you believe in, being gay marriage, whatever, we can't have people being beat up. We can't. And it's the same thing, by the way, with pollution back in the 70s. In the 50s, I don't know if you ever watched Mad Men, where they went to the park for a picnic, and instead of throwing everything in the garbage, Betty picks up the picnic blanket, shakes out all the garbage, folds it up and walks away, leaving the garbage there. I remember in the 70s driving down the road and people would throw their garbage out the window, the McDonald's bags all on the side of the road. I remember that, during the Jimmy Carter time. So that's why we had PSAs. Things evolve, things change, okay? But see, with these people, their whole bread and butter is the evolution. We have to have more equality. Well, when is going to be enough? When do you maintain? So what's happened is all of these people, they actually got what they wanted. So then what happens is you have to distort the thinking. And I don't know how many of you, I'm guessing not too many because I hadn't paid much attention, but I didn't understand this thinking on the left and how you guys living in war zones and you're like okay with it. I don't understand. And just happened to be on TV, baby daddy was watching something about a kid talking about the thinking and the mindset behind Evergreen College in Washington State. And if you don't know anything about this, please look it up because we're in trouble, folks. What they're teaching our kids is very dangerous. We saw bits and pieces of it sort of trying to work their way in with Obama, with Common Core. Yeah, well, under Obama with Common Core. And I did an article on that, and I've mentioned it before, but what they were trying to do was take away classics. I read their curriculum ideas, and the guy who implemented Common Core went on and took over the company that headed up the SATs and the ACTs, and they had major problems last year. A lot of colleges got rid of them because they were so bad and so skewed. So anyway, back with Common Core. They were taking away classics, and they wanted kids in English class, I'm not even exaggerating, they wanted kids in English class to start reading executive orders. They were implementing these things to get these kids out of the American individualist mindset and over to a more Marxist, communist mindset. And that's what Black Lives Matter is. I know many of you know this. It's mind-boggling. They literally say on their website, again, as many of you know, that they want to destroy the nuclear family because they want your children to be raised by the community. This is Marxism. They're getting rid of the parents. So and what did they do in Marxism? You turn your parents into the government if they are against the government. They are destroying the family structure because it was paramount to the structure of this country. Family units stayed together, and it's been in place, and I'm not suggesting we didn't need social assistance on some level, but we didn't need we didn't need Uncle Sam to turn into our stepdad. And that's what a lot of things have happened. There isn't systemic racism. There's systemic serfdom. They keep you in that system. But if you're a low income, if you're of a certain class, they don't want you to rise above. And it's very, very easy to fall down to that class. It's very hard to rise out. It's very hard to see yourself as somebody who can rise out, because that's what's taught in the schools. That you are a victim no matter what. The only way you can get ahead is by getting yours from those who took it from your ancestors. We don't teach our kids anymore the value of an American education or the American system, or we teach them, these people are teaching them that the American dream isn't possible. However, how is that a reality that they don't question when Ilhan Omar rose up from nothing, when Tim Scott rose up from nothing? So these things, when we've got the stupid, ignorant, one of the most sincerely stupid people I've ever seen in my life, AOC, as a sitting congressperson. We are not in good times, folks. We need to take back our kids. And a lot of this I have to question. I'm sorry. I'm going to turn this one around on you guys. As the parents here, and this is a mom issue, this is a mother issue. As a parent, how many of you kids... how many of you are talking to your kids? Seriously talking to your kids? Because we all blame the school system. We do. We blame Democrats, we blame teachers, we blame unions, and we are right to do so. We are absolutely right to do so. We send them off to academia with these hard leftist, Marxist professors right when they are the most emotionally charged, irrational beings. That's what happens. Their rational brains aren't fully developed, our kids. Their rational brains aren't fully developed until they're about 25 years old. Until that point, they're thinking with the amygdala, which is where emotion happens. Their emotion and their reason aren't in line. We think with the frontal prefrontal cortex. We think with the rational experience base. They don't have the experience base, so they're literally running on emotion. They're not being taught. We're not talking to them. We did, but we're not talking to them, and then we send them off to the Marxists, and we wonder why they're rampaging in the streets. How many of you tell your kids what you think about abortion without anger? How many of you talk to your kids about Islam without judgment? Because here's part of the other part. When you talk to your kids about Islam, for example, and you have harsh criticism of the faith or of the people in it, you've said it, you've planted a seed. And if you send them out into the world and they stumble upon these Marxists, they're going to tell you your parents just hate Islam because they don't want to lose their power struggle or their superiority base within this power struggle. That's the disgusting, distorted reasoning that they can inflict upon our kids because parents aren't talking to their kids like adults. You do. We don't live in a world where you can sugarcoat shit anymore, folks. You need to talk to your kids about our Constitution, about your faith. You can't vilify them if they don't share your beliefs. They'll come around. They're still emotional and they don't have the experience yet. But don't vilify them. Don't get angry because that anger will be used against you out in the real world by these predators. Remember those commercials in the 80s, those PSAs? They used to say, talk to your kids about drugs before someone else does. For the love of God, people, I beg you. This is an issue. This is my mother issue today. For the love of God, people, I beg you, talk to your kids about politics. Talk to them about religion. Talk to them about society. Talk to them about geography. Talk to them about history. Because if you don't, someone else is. Remember those Barack Hussein Obama? My daughter was in first grade back then. It's actually what got us all involved in. It's not entirely what got us all involved with this, but we went out for a tax day protest when she was in first grade. It was all the spending. It was the auto bailouts and the banking bailouts, and it had nothing to do really with Barack Obama, except that he was spending like a freaking drunken sailor on at Fleet Week. That was my first exposure to being a racist. It was startling. Anyways, that set us off on well over a decade of pretty hardcore, intensive involvement in waking people up and saving our country. And, as many of you know, I work for Glenn Beck, and that was not something I took lightly. We worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, 2 years nonstop. We were homeschooling our daughter. We were at the rallies. We started them. I researched books. I did episodes. I've been working hard to save my country, and I didn't see this. So I'm hoping that you guys will do a little bit of research into what Evergreen College is and what they're teaching your kids. This isn't just about fisting and the LGBT. They are not just teaching to bring in the fringes. They are teaching that you are evil. They are teaching that you are evil, guys. Do you see that little girl out in California with a megaphone talking about how she's mixed race, her mom's white, her dad's black, and just because your mom gave birth to you doesn't mean she can't be a racist? That poor mother. What a horrible thing. And that's what they're doing. So guys, take care of your family. And part of taking care of your family isn't just providing. It's providing the freaking tools to survive in the world. This isn't good. Don't mean to be dire, but this isn't good. And we need to talk about China and TikTok and how they all play into this, because they're fomenting this, guys. It's not just Soros paying for this. It's China. Anyways, guys, that's what I got for today. Thanks for sticking around. This is important stuff, so please stay informed, stay vigilant, and stick around. I've got more to say. Oh, and please, you know what? Share this video. I think it's important. This one I do think is important. Share this video. Like, share, subscribe. I need all the help I can get. And the message is important. Our country's too important to let it go to these pieces of shit. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.